Welcome to Brain versus Heart. I hope you guys are having a happy holiday around the time this video was made. Christmas is only 2 days away. I want to thank you guys for all the feedback that you've been giving. It really helps to know what people are dealing with and what problems they have so we can tackle those problems. So someone wrote in recently, and it's a very interesting comment. It reads, I'm an adult INFP with ADHD and my mom is an ENTJ. We've both taken the Myers-Briggs 16 personality test, but I don't think she's a fan of it. Not because she thought it was inaccurate about her own personality, but because she's concerned that I'm using it as a crutch or excuse for the negative behavior that I can display sometimes, rather than using it as a tool for self-understanding and improvement. That being said, we have communication issues in our relationship, and I think it boils down to the fact that we think and process things differently. I understand that not all relationships will look like it does according to the Myers-Briggs, but I was wondering if you could explain some of the strengths and weaknesses that an ENTJ mother might have in a relationship with their INFP child and vice versa. This is a great question slash comment, and I will attempt to answer it as best as I can. I have personally lived alongside and lived with ENTJs, and they can be amazing, strong people. It's fun to hang out with them, but just like any personality type, they do have a different way of processing things, especially when it comes to sensitivities. That also being said, your relationship with your mother is going to differ from a relationship, say, that you would have with your brother or your sister or your friend who is also the same personality type. Nurturing is a very big part of that as well. Your environment and stresses are a very big part of that as well. So let's list off some of the strengths that I've noticed with ENTJs. For the most part, from every ENTJ I've met, I've also dated and also lived partially with an ENTJ, and I can tell you that they are very strong-headed people. They're strong-minded. They will speak up no matter what things look like. No matter even if they think they're at a loss, they'll still speak up. In situations that other people like ENFPs or INFPs would probably want to walk away or tone things down, the ENTJ doesn't care. They will say what's on their mind and what they feel, damn be the consequences. It takes a certain level of maturity and experience to hone in your response that you give. They also like being leaders. It's a natural part of their personality. Whoever they love, they are going to spend the most time on making that person better, on trying to make that person strong. However, I do find that a weakness with ENTJs is that while they don't rely on anyone, one of their weaknesses is it seems as though they need to be relied on. Because they are protectors and they are natural leader types, it is important to them to validate them doing a good job, that people feel safe around them and safe enough to trust them and to follow their lead. If that doesn't happen, the ENTJ usually thinks that it's something that they're doing wrong, but firstly, especially immature ENTJs will think that the person that they're trying to help is being stubborn. The ENTJ might not recognize stubbornness in themselves, or even if they do, they will justify it very heavily. And it was very hard for an ENTJ to say that they're sorry, because a lot of them that I've met are confident in who they are. The other thing that ENTJs tend to do, which is a strength and can be a weakness too, is they will pick apart everything. If you say that this thing is helping you, they will seem to fight you at every corner to say why it doesn't. And when I had spoken to an ENTJ I dated why he did this, why it always seems like he's debating every single thing I tell him, is because, and this is what he said, I want to make sure that your argument is sound, that what you believe in is sound. And he also said that for him to understand things, he has to debate it. That's how he takes information in. The thing is, for someone like an INFP who is highly sensitive, you don't want to be debated all the time. If something works for you and you have somebody else telling you that no, it doesn't and it shouldn't because this happens, even though they may be right on some level, that's not what you want to hear. ENTJs, I've found, tend to be very hard to talk to when it comes to sensitive matters, especially when it makes no sense to them. They are more logical minded, so just bear that in mind. But it's funny because when they debate with you to that degree, it's because they really care about you and they're convinced that what they're saying is the best way to look at things. Now, if the parent, like this ENTJ mother, is concerned that his or her child is using the Myers-Briggs as a crutch or an excuse for negative behavior, it is also the child's prerogative to take inventory as to whether or not that's actually the truth. There are some aspects about each of our personalities that we do have to alter for the sake of peace in society or in order to make ourselves better. For example, as an INFP myself, I am very sensitive. I'm less sensitive with strangers because I don't really care about them. I don't live with them. But with someone who I am romantically involved with, like my husband, or someone who I'm really close to and I consider someone I trust, the sensitivities can be amped up 1,000. And even if I know the person and I know they don't mean it that way in the way they say things, I will still find myself withdrawing from them so that I could process what they're saying and so I can have some time to not be so emotional, if that makes sense. Sometimes I will initially withdraw because I am hurt. I need to separate myself from the problem or the person that I believed hurt me or the situation so that I can go back over in my mind what I did wrong. Was this person right? Is the way I'm feeling now warranted? Or am I being too sensitive? It's important for you to consider your own behavior when somebody else is telling you, because when we are going through something, sometimes we don't readily see it. INFPs have a very good grasp on how they're behaving and what they're dealing with, but we're still human beings just like everyone else, and sometimes we can make mistakes. Sometimes we're so wrapped up in this side of our life that we don't realize that we're lacking in this side of our life. My husband had told me that when I pull away to process things, I won't want to speak to him or anyone for that matter for a while. I just am totally antisocial. I pull away from everything and I literally just shut down in my own mind. And he told me that it hurts him when I do that. He understands why I do it, but he was wondering if there's a way we can process things together. And guess what? It's funny, him being an INTJ, but he challenged me. When I would pull away for hours, I just want to be the only one that exists. I don't want to talk to people. I work from home, so that works. If I do work outside or I'm outside with a job, I'm not as social as I usually am. But when he challenged me, he came to me. And at first, this was very annoying because I don't like people impeding upon my processing time. For me, I feel like it takes longer. But what he did is he started questioning me. Sometimes I might not even know what's going on with me, why I feel the way I do. INFPs do need some time for introspect and to figure out why they're feeling the way they do. Sometimes our sensitivities, our feels hit us way before the logic of why we feel that way hits us, if that makes any sense. Someone will say something mean to you, or someone will do something to you, and you'll feel hurt and you'll pull away and you'll know that it's connected to that, but then you'll really ask, why is it that that hurts me? And you don't really have an answer. So when my husband comes to me and he forces me to process along with him why I'm feeling that way, because sometimes it will be something he says, I'll start to open up. Of course, he has to pry it open, and that's something very annoying about us, especially if someone doesn't respond in a way that we find to be inviting. We'll get kind of nervous about opening up to people, and sometimes he's responded in a way that's like, not very inviting. ENTJs have that problem too a lot of the time, but if you let them know, hey, you need to listen. If you want me to speak to you, you have to be willing to listen. That's exactly what he did. He asked me why I was feeling the way I was. He asked me all the questions that my brain already was asking me and forced me to answer them. And in doing so, we tackled the problem together. And what would have taken me probably 3 days to process, he helped me process it in a matter of 15 minutes. Now, you will feel the residual hurt or feelings afterwards because that part of your brain is still trying to process through things. That part of your brain is still telling you, do I trust this person over and over and over again? Do I trust this person? Even if it's someone close to you, like your mother. If you have a strained communicative relationship with that person, that's that instinct in that part of your mind that if you were hurt by that person, you're going to continue to question, are they right? Should I let my guard down around this person? Should I open up and be happy again? What if I am and I get crushed again? But it will be easy once you communicate and that person's able to help you process this together. I may be wrong, but it sounds like that's what the ENTJ mother was trying to do. So then if you guys had that conversation, and at least the one thing I like with the ENTJs is they will be open and upfront with you and tell you just like how it is. Maybe the way they do it may not be the way that you like them to do it because they can be a little bit blunt and abrasive in their tact, but they are coming from a good place. And it's still good for you to go back when you're on your own and listen, and then come back and have a conversation with the ENTJ mother and tell her, look, maybe you're right. I do kind of use this as a crutch. Or if you don't feel like you do, ask her, what do you mean? What have you found? Or what example have you seen me using this as a crutch? The other thing that you need to let the ENTJ know, and this sounds horrible, but this is the way that works, is when you let them know how them not listening to you or hearing your side or bossing you around makes you feel towards them. If you let your mother or your significant other know that when they do that, it doesn't make you feel safe around them. It makes you not want to open up about them. That is something that will really get to their brain. There's that thing in every human being that if you tell them it, it will wake them up. It's really freaking weird. It's horrible, but everyone has a vice. Everyone has a button. For my father, for example, even though we're joking, I would never do this to my dad, but he is deathly afraid that we're going to put him in a nursing home. I would never do that to him. But if I want something or he's not listening to me and I tell him, Daddy, if you continue doing that, I'm going to put you in a nursing home. That's something that clicks in his brain. He's like, oh boy, I better behave. For my mother with my father, it's, hey, the way you make me feel like I want to leave you. Now that's horrible. It's another situation in and of itself. I wouldn't advise doing that. That's not something you should threaten someone with, but they were going through some issues and she was just being honest. For some friends, the breaking point may be, hey, if you continue treating me like this, I don't want to talk to you again. I can't talk to you like this. For parents, it's connection and communication. And with how you're feeling, if you can't communicate to your parent, if it's only their side and it's like they're not understanding you, when you tell them, look, mom, when you talk like this, you make me not want to talk to you. I've had that discussion with my mom before. She's an INFJ and she had this habit, and I guess it's from her upbringing, where I would tell her something in confidence and then she would use it as a method to punish me later. And I'm like, okay, when I got old enough and I wasn't really afraid of her anymore, I was like, Mom, now we have an okay relationship. It was very stressful back then. But I told her straight up, I said, Mom, you know, when you ask me to confide in you and I tell you something and then you use it as a punishment later, you make me pull away from you. You make me feel like you're not my mother and I can't trust you. And I will go and talk to someone over here before I speak to you because that's how you make me feel. And it will hurt her feelings because INFJs are also very sensitive. But you know what? After I tell her that, because she's also very proud and she doesn't want me feeling that way about my own mother, she toned down a lot and she was willing to listen. And she even went as far as to say, if I'm doing it, just let me know. And I would tell her, Mom, you're doing it again. And she would catch herself and she said, I'm sorry. How can we fix this? So that's something that you can do with your ENTJ. But to close this video, just understand that your ENTJ loves you. ENTJs are only that annoying and bossy with people that they love, like they really, really love. They'll still do it with other people in general because that's just a natural thing with them. They have to be in control because they're confident in their skill set. They're very logical thinkers. And if they're surrounded by a whole bunch of people who are more feeler type people, they tend to want to tell them what to do because we let them get away with it all the time. And if you try to argue with them, they just keep arguing and arguing and arguing and it goes nowhere. Sometimes it's best to disconnect yourself and to tell them, this is how you make me feel when you do this. I understand that you need to debate and to speak this kind of way to get your point across, but I'm not like you. And if you want to communicate and have a relationship with me, then you need to tone it down or at least try to see where I'm coming from because your way is not the only way all the time. Anyway, this is just the general answer that I can give because I don't know all of the intricacies of the relationship. The OP also mentioned that she has ADHD, so she may feel things a lot differently than someone who doesn't, and that's something to also consider. But anyways, if you guys have any other suggestions or questions, just ask, and I hope you guys have a really happy holiday.